So, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome back to our second exciting session of the day. Before we kick off this session, can I just draw your attention to the forthcoming Construction Machinery Awards taking place at an exclusive gala dinner on the 7th of June. Nominations across the key categories actually go live during the course of next week. So I'd urge you all to look at this website, look at our social media announcements, get your nominations ready. It goes live next week, and the lucky winners receive their crystalline trophies at an exclusive gala dinner. And I strongly recommend as many of your companies can apply now as possible. Keep an eye on the website. Nominations go live next week. You don't want to miss this. Be there on stage as a lucky winner on the 7th of June. But as they say, you have to be in it to win it. So please get your nominations ready. Let's begin session 2 of today. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And we now have a special presentation from Mr. Tim Whiteman, who's Global Branding Director, as you know, at Sinoboom. Following his role as a panelist just 45 minutes ago, he's going to give an overview of the opportunities and the challenges of electrified equipment. And he's going to help us gain a better understanding of the options for electric access equipment in the market, as well as taking a look at where this game-changing technology can best be heading. Sounds good, doesn't it? A very warm welcome, Tim, to the stage. Great to see you here again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the warm welcome. And it's great to be here. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session. Just before we get started, I'd like to get a little bit of a feel about you guys in the audience. So we're just going to do a quick survey. Can you put your hand up if you drive an electric car? Congratulations, sir. Oh, there's a few, yeah, okay. I think I'm on new territory here for a lot of people. And perhaps just put your hands up if you believe your next car will be electric. Quite a lot more. So we can see the way the trend is going. Thank you for that. That's a quick snapshot of the audience. So, of course, let's see if we can get this working. Yes, there we go. Of course, this is the year of sustainability. Today for tomorrow. It's all about investment decisions, creating today the groundwork for the society that is wanted for tomorrow. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends in electrification of our equipment. I want to put my hand up straight away and say I'm not a technical person. If you ask me detailed questions about different kinds of batteries, I'm going to ask you to hold them for the next speaker, who I happen to know is an expert on battery technology. But let's look at the way the trend is going, because we had a very interesting question this morning for the panel about how can rental companies make their investment decisions for the future and how to try to future-proof your equipment. And I hope that some of the information I'm going to give you today will help you with that. Just a little bit about my background. I'm Global Branding Director for Sinoboom, which is based in Changsha in China. If you are in Hong Kong, our factories are about 3 hours north of Hong Kong by high-speed train. And Changsha is known as the city of construction equipment in China. It's absolutely a focus of manufacturing excellence. Quite a few well-known names are based there. Our name in Chinese means it's a combination of the word for stars and nation, and our company was formed by a husband and wife team, a purely private venture, who are absolutely motivated to create a world-class team delivering world-class success. This is a quote from our chairman. He uses the English name Stephen as well. We finally made up our minds to resign from a stable job and start a business to become a professional equipment manufacturer of aerial work platforms just 15 years ago. And we started production in 2008. Our first electric scissor was built 2 years later, and our first electric boom in 2012. Interesting to note that Stephen is an engineer and designed the first booms that were patented in China. So we designed and built the first booms made in China. My background also is that I joined Sinoboom in 2020 and was tasked with starting the company's European subsidiary. And we got up and running in August 2020. A little bit more about that in a few moments. So, this is a very bold statement talking about the MEWP industry. In 2019, almost 60% of the fleet of MEWPs in Europe was electric. And these figures come from the International Powered Access Federation. And you can see there a breakdown by country. Germany, I think, is interesting to look at because Germany is, I don't know if you're familiar with this here, but in Europe we refer to them as diesel heads. Germany loves its diesel cars. I live across the border in Switzerland, just like 2 kilometers from Germany, and it's true. It's diesel is at home in Germany. But in Germany, in 2019, 62% of booms were electric powered already. And if you add in hybrid, you're getting up to 69%. Scissor lifts, even higher, 84%. And this is being driven by commercial pressures at that time, particularly with scissor lifts. It was commercially sound. But things have changed, and there is a lot of pressure in Europe to phase out the internal combustion engine. And that's just to prove that electric machines can be worked indoors as well, and environmentally friendly, no fumes. If you now look to 2021, the figure had gone up to 63.5% electric, and Germany was at about 74% for booms. 74% of all booms in Germany are electric or hybrid. Part of this comes from government pressure. Part of it is simply people. There is a strong desire to go green in Europe, and growing confidence about the abilities of electric equipment. People realizing it can do the job. I was speaking to the owner of a medium-sized rental company in the UK last year. He was looking at our equipment on an exhibition, and I said to him, are you going to buy electric? And he said, yeah, we buy electric whenever we can. We still have to buy some diesel sometimes, but I don't want to, because I think the residual value will just drop off very quickly in the next few years. And this is really the way it's going. People are more confident now about electric equipment. 2022, I believe we reached 67% of the fleet in Europe was electric, 67%, and I think this year it'll probably reach 70% of the entire fleet of mobile elevating work platforms in Europe. And again, these figures are from the IPAF studies, which are produced by a market research company called Ducker. Let's have a look at the US. Slightly higher in 2019, and you can see, so you've got booms on the left and scissors on the right. You can see that the blue means electric. Scissors are just, it's all going electric, and booms each year becoming more and more electric. Look to 2021, which is the latest year for which figures are available, and you end up with a total of 63.5% electric in the US, another country which loves diesel. 2023, I think Europe will have overtaken in terms of the proportion, but you can see the way the trend is going. Going back a little bit to our company history, as I said, we started in 2008, and the first products we sold were booms into shipyards. That's hence the name Sino-Boom, because we started with booms. And we have just turned 15 years old at the beginning of this month. So there's a little birthday cake for us. Happy birthday to Sino-Boom. We're still a young company, but we are one of the most experienced and established companies in China. We specialize in MEWPs. We don't do excavators, cranes, other construction equipment. So we are really specialists in producing MEWPs. This is the husband and wife team that founded Sino-Boom. On the left, Stephen, who's an engineer and is now chairman of the company, but is still very much involved in the design philosophy and producing or ensuring the equipment is produced to high quality. Stephen's wife, Susan, takes care of the commercial aspects of the company and is also a member of the IPAF Council. As I mentioned before, I was the CEO of IPAF, and Sino-Boom was the first Chinese OEM to join IPAF and to contribute to the running and management of the company as well. So let's just go back to the opportunities, because Sino-Boom has clear ambitions to be a global player. And when I was appointed the CEO of Sino-Boom Europe, we were looking at the figures, and you can see that in North America, the total market is, the total fleet is about 780,000. Europe, Africa, and Middle East, which is 94% Europe, it's almost 500,000. And then Asia Pacific, which the largest part of that is China, is 670,000. It's worth mentioning that 10 years ago, there were about 10,000 MEWPs in China, and by the end of this year, there will be 500,000 MEWPs in China. So that partly explains the enormous growth of Chinese OEMs, because we have been rushing to meet the demand in China. And again, I want to emphasize, we specialize in MEWPs, we don't do anything else. 80% of the Chinese rental fleet is now electric. That's phenomenal. And I don't want to be rude to any of our customers in China, but it's not because everybody had a green moment and thought we want to be environmentally friendly. It's because of the economies. Electric equipment is cheaper to run, lower maintenance, as I mentioned about the Tesla driver today, low maintenance, low fuel costs, and also because the Chinese government has invested in making the power supply available. Chinese construction sites generally have electrical supplies available from the beginning. With me today from our head office in China are two colleagues who I'm sure will be happy to answer any more questions about that. Mr. Dawei He, who's our Overseas Sales Director, and Mr. Johnson Gu, who joined us. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, as a result of this investment, China, as we all know, has become a center of excellence for batteries. Whether it's Tesla or whether it's Polestar, the batteries are originating in China to a large extent, and the technology is really pushing forward there. Coming back to my story a little bit, we launched Sino-Boom Europe in 2020. Then we immediately got hit by the pandemic. Everything went on hold for a few months. But we then went ahead with our plans and received that's the first container of machines arriving from China in August 2020, which was a proud moment for us. We were a new name. We had sold a few machines in Europe, but pretty much a new brand, and we had to establish ourselves. And one of the things we did from the beginning was to say to people, we're focusing on electric equipment. We have a full range of electric equipment, and it's the future, and we have expertise in the area. And that really caught people's imagination. We set ourselves apart, and that was part of our message as well, which I want to repeat. It's obvious, really, but not all Chinese companies are the same. Sometimes people talk about the Chinese OEMs. Very different philosophies, very different design approaches. We're really not all the same, in the same way that US companies are not all the same. So we set ourselves apart, we focused on electric and on being a premium made in China brand with European support and expertise. So our parent company invested massively in stock, in staff, in people, and the company is now 2.5 years later up and running. I was the first person employed by Sinoboom outside China. We now have about 200 people employed outside China. So our overseas growth is phenomenal, and we are coming to a location near you in the GCC area very soon this year. So please keep in contact with us, because we will be in a position to meet your requirements in the very near future. I guess we've covered this. These are pictures from our depot in Europe, in Rotterdam. We use AGM batteries, which you can see in the picture there below, for most of our equipment, not all of it. We make lithium batteries available as an option. The great advantage to us of AGM batteries is we say to people, please don't touch them, don't open them, and they just keep running and running. If the customer wants lithium, something different, of course we can supply it. This was our slogan for the first 2 years, electrify your fleet, and as you saw from the figures before, it really caught the mood of the market. In this year, Sinoboom in Europe is introducing some diesel products, because as we've established ourselves and started to deliver to larger accounts, larger companies, they said, okay, we like your electric product, but we still need some diesel products. So diesel products are coming. There's a full range of diesel products available in this region. And we're also launching so-called range extenders for some of our electric products, on the booms in particular. So the technology doesn't stand still. It's moving forward all the time. In Europe, we committed to work with TVH, who are a strategic partner. They guarantee to supply our parts within a certain amount of time. And you can be sure that our strategy for this area also includes a heavy focus on parts supply and consistency. So how good is electric technology? Can it really meet the demands of our industry? Well, as you saw from the statistics and the trends, the industry thinks so, because of really investing in the products. And this is just a short quote from one of the magazines in the UK, talking about the efficient electrical drive and the fact that autonomy is pretty high. We design our equipment to be able to run for at least a full day based on an overnight charge. That's our head office in Changsha in China. We also have a factory in Poznan in Poland. That's the factory in Poland, which is gradually ramping up production to be able to produce the full range of our product. This is an artist's impression of a new industrial park that we've just broken ground on in Changsha, which will significantly increase our production capabilities. Today, Sinoboom employs around 1,000 people worldwide. The majority are based in Changsha, and we now have 3 factories at that site, and we're just starting construction of the 4th phase, which is highly digitalized. We've spent a lot of time working with Siemens and Accenture. And if you go to the factory, you'll probably think, where are all the people? Because it's so highly roboticized to ensure consistency of production. The market has changed a lot, and as I mentioned before, the explosion of the Chinese market has led to the development of some very strong Chinese OEMs. It's a big market, there's room for everybody, but I would urge you to consider looking at our product, because for the first year while I was running Sinoboom in Europe, we were quite cautious of promising things we couldn't deliver. In Europe, we are a full service provider now. Electric booms up to 28 meters working height, scissor lifts, vertical masts, and the technology is there. There's some of the figures from China, and again, why is 80% of the fleet electric? It's because of government encouragement and support, and because the economics stack up. The owners of the very large fleets, and there are companies in China that have fleets of more than 100,000 machines, and they have taken the decision they want electric equipment because of reliability, low maintenance, and low fuel costs. So again, I can't tell you when it's going to happen here or how it's going to happen, but I think you can see the overwhelming evidence is that electric equipment can provide solutions for you. And there's just an indication of how the size of the Chinese fleet has grown from 2019 to 2022. Just wrapping up a little bit, we've talked about most of these things. Electric provides or electric-powered platforms provide lower maintenance, lower fuel costs. There is government support available. There are some cities that won't allow diesel or internal combustion engines in anymore. They're very popular with the public. People don't like loud diesels. Here's a lady taking the law into her own hands, cutting the pipes on a platform that was working near her home that was too loud. It's terrible, it's so dangerous, but people get driven to distraction sometimes. So silent machines are the future. Of course, there are some things you can't electrify. This is a beautiful car that belongs to our spare parts manager in Europe, and he said, no, I'm not having an electric car, I keep this one. But you can't convince everyone. Can electric really cut through the mud? Have a look at the picture on the left. That's an electric machine working in Germany. No problem at all. The customer is delighted with it. So in less than 2 years, Sineboom has opened subsidiaries in the Netherlands, in Texas, in Australia, Singapore, South Korea. Why do I say that? Because I want to give you the confidence that we are on a roll, as they say. We have a strategic plan. We know where we're going. We are here to stay. And as I said, we will be opening very shortly in your region. So we're delighted to answer any questions you might have for us. And thank you very much. Shukran. Exactly on time. Look at that. Exactly 0.
I thought it was a terrific presentation. Let me lead the questions, if I may. So I think people may be unfamiliar with just how developed for the electric marketplace China actually is. Because, you mentioned the likes of Tesla and Polestar, but of course the most sophisticated and advanced electric cars in the world are made by BYD in China, which has a colossal slice of the mid-range and even upper echelons of the Chinese market.
Yep.
And it's no accident that BYD, of course, started off as the world's largest battery manufacturer as well. So there is that legacy process in China, say 20, 25 years of the adoption and sophisticated development of electricity
Agreed.
as a principal popular source of power. How long will it be before that happens in the GCC? What do you think, Tim?
So I'd rather leave that to some experts in the region, but we've heard today about the clear focus that's coming, for example, from Saudi Arabia. We know about the focus this year in the Emirates as well on sustainability. So I think you will be surprised at how quickly it happens here. When people put their minds to it, the technology is there, and the people who make the investment decisions decide, we need to think about what's happening in 5 years' time when we buy our next vehicles. And as we saw today, I think about half the people in the room put their hand up when I asked, will your next car be electric?
Yeah, and I think with the world of the MUPs and so on, that transition is relatively simple because at night they just come back into the warehouse and you plug them in. You know, it's a very structured, simple process. So
Correct.
I would expect to see that happen. Perhaps that adoption can happen perhaps even more quickly than with
There is a
electrified cars.
caveat to that. The rental companies and the construction sites have to have adequate power.
They have to have that. They have to have that. And do
Yeah.
you feel they do at the moment?
I think it's just a question of time until people do.
Yeah.
In the UK, we saw one large rental company that took the decision to go electric, started buying the equipment, and then discovered they didn't have the power to charge them, so they had to slow down the investment.
Yeah.
But the policy is still there. It will happen. And going back to your point about China and the 20 years of experience, we should remember that 20 years of experience breeds engineers, designers,
Absolutely.
all those people who've got the experience and the confidence to work with this kind of equipment.
And I notice as well, you know, I'm not particularly plugging BYD here, but if you look at their model range, it's perhaps the only electrified fleet or the electrified model range in the world that is no longer following the design principles that developed by, you know, that were required to contain an internal combustion engine.
Absolutely. It frees up the engineer.
It frees up the space.
Yeah.
It frees up the space.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, please, for Tim? Gentlemen, just here, please. We'll just get a microphone to you, sir. Here we are. Gentleman in white, just here, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. My question, you were talking about no manufacturer is the same. Obviously, that's correct, including the manufacturers in China. What about your experience now with acceptance of the Chinese product in this region v, for example, the US? Is there a difference in perception, and is there more pushback in the US? Is there more pushback here, or you're not experiencing that so much and it's just still a matter of product recognition? How big is this acceptance of the product as far as the manufacturer is concerned?
Yeah, it's a very political question, Rob. In all seriousness, I'm not directly involved in the US. I'll be going to ConExpo next week. But my colleagues tell me there, of course, there are some people who are nervous about anything to do with China, but the vast majority of the rental industry wants to check the product, know about your after-service sales and support, and wants to know about your company history. And then they make an informed decision. So not a big problem.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions, please? Darren, please. Yeah.
Just a question on, we're going down the electrification route as part of sustainability initiatives and the drive for governments of a greener economy. But where are we looking in the future, potentially, with the likes of the recyclability of electrification, the batteries, the lithium? Is there a risk that we stand with diesel now when you look at resource harvesting to create the batteries, that all of a sudden lithium battery technologies become as ostracized as diesel, and then all of a sudden we have to go down the hydrogen route? How is that costed into the longer term, the longevity of the electric machine? Because we've got to look at the whole life cycle cost here.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
Well, this is a very good point. Sorry to interrupt. It's a very good point because you and I remember the time when diesel was being advocated all over the world. You know,
Not quite as old as you.
Incredibly, incredibly economical, incredibly durable, all of those things. And look what's happened.
Exactly, and
Look
that's
what's
only in
happened.
30 years.
You know?
So to come to the question, of course there are different kinds of battery technology. You mentioned lithium, and lithium is the newest. And as I said, we are more standardized on AGM, and we have very good experience with it. But lithium batteries are coming, and they bring with them their own challenges, which we're still working through and assessing. From my experience in Europe, the European Union has a program where we have to register all the batteries that we purchase and all the batteries that we sell, and we will have responsibilities in the future in certain countries, in certain situations, for taking those batteries back, recycling them, whatever is decided. I expect to see the same kind of programs coming in around the world. You won't be able to just dispose of the battery wherever you feel like it. So yes, it is factored in. We have a technical specialist who's working on it and is managing the registration program for us. I don't have all the answers.
No, I understand it is factored in because we're obviously looking at that, but is there any sort of estimation on cost impact further down the line of recycling these batteries? We've seen it in the UK with just waste disposal, getting rid of your refrigerator and things like that. So now...
So different countries have different models. I live in Switzerland. If I buy a refrigerator and I've finished with it, the shop has an obligation to take it back. And in fact, not just the shop, any electrical shop. And we all pay a tax on top of every electrical item we purchase.
Really?
So again, it comes back to the question this morning about investment decisions, trying to anticipate what governments will do. We're doing our best. I mean, the automobile industry has the same questions. The amount of batteries that are being created for electric cars at the moment dwarfs anything we're doing. So to a large extent, we follow what they're doing.
Tim, thank you very much indeed. That's
You're very welcome.
Fascinating presentation.
Thank you very much.
Please.